Well, I've just got back to Moscow after a short break. In a moment, is the USSR about to rise again? But first, I saw this in today's Komsomolskaya Pravda. Now, I realise I'm posting this late, but I think it's quite important. It's an interview with the hawkish Nikolai Patrushev. He's a Putin aide, quite a powerful one. On paper, his brief is shipbuilding. But this isn't about ships. It's about geopolitics, relations with the West and the war in Ukraine, and it provides an insight into the Kremlin's hardline view of things. The headline here, Patrushev warning that it cannot be ruled out that this year Ukraine will cease to exist. An unsubtle hint from Moscow to Ukraine and to Washington that they should agree to Russia's conditions for ending the war, including accepting that Russia isn't going to hand back any of the territory it has seized and occupied in Ukraine. Patrushev says it is important that the world recognizes that the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, Luhansk People's Republic, Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, Crimea and Sevastopol, have become part of the Russian Federation. He claims that outright Russophobia is destroying once prosperous Ukrainian cities like Kharkiv, Odessa, Mykolaiv and Dnipro. Another hint, perhaps, that if the war continues, these places too could become Russian targets. He adds, talks on Ukraine should be held between Russia and the US without any other Western countries participating. There is nothing to discuss with London or Brussels. And this sounds like a threat to Moldova. It cannot be excluded that the aggressive anti-Russian policy of Chisinau will lead to Moldova either becoming part of another state or will cease to exist. Also, we can see from Patrushev the kind of Europe that the Kremlin wants to deal with, not Brussels and the EU, but individual pro-Moscow European countries. For a long time now, the EU leadership has had no right to speak on behalf of many of its members, like Hungary, Slovakia, Austria, Romania, and some other European countries that want stability in Europe and have a balanced view on relations with Russia. Quite extraordinary, this suggestion that the only nations in Europe wanting stability are those that have good relations with a country whose large-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 created such instability in Europe. So to summarise, no hint of compromise, some veiled threats, and a determination to deal solely with the Trump administration on Ukraine, plus confidence in the Kremlin that under Donald Trump, the US will lose interest in the Ukraine war. Patrushev predicts Ukraine will not be a Trump priority. He's more concerned about China. Well, we'll see if that is the case once Donald Trump is back in the White House. Meanwhile, this too caught my eye. In the same paper, a Russian MP, Anatoly Wasserman, has said the USSR may come back to life this year. He said there was a high possibility of it. We may manage to do this in 2025, the expert MP told journalists at the start of January, or maybe we'll have to wait a couple more years. Well, not long to wait. Let's see.